How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome to Muv-Luv Monday. And this is the beginning of the Muv-Luv Unlimited, the day after episode 2. Now, this is part of a playlist, so if you're stumbling across this already, keep in mind this is well into a very established story. Obviously, Muv-Luv itself is very heavily established. I highly recommend you read or have at least participate in watching Muv-Luv Extra, Unlimited, and then Alternative. I'll be referencing those and probably other side stories as well, but those are the main three you don't want to be missing if you jumped into this somehow right in the middle. Just keep that in mind. I've got some playlists you can access, probably easy to find here on my channel, but there's plenty of other channels that have covered the same content. Also, of course, primarily, if you can, experience these stories yourself. So, there's a Steam page I've linked in the description. There's probably other places as well, like Manga Gamer. I don't know if they have Muv-Luv though, actually, now I think about it, but regardless, get these games, support the developers, translators, and writers that make such great content for us. But frankly, yeah, well, welcome back. So last week, we were continuing on. We had finished episode 1. It was a very exciting conclusion, very powerful, and we got to see the cameo of Yui, who looks like is going to be prominently featured in this story, seeing as she's here on this page. So yeah, we're going to be jumping in. We're going to be having a lot more excitement and adventures with the war dogs and Marimo still being around, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where this is going to go. I think what we're now going to start seeing, because so the beta have made a fairly large incursion, but one threat we haven't seen much of yet is the war between the US and Canada/France. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see an escalation of that in this part. The fact that there are handguns prominent in the opening really is making me think that is more likely. But we'll have to see, obviously. There's a lot to cover, a lot to do, but it's going to be a fun adventure. It's going to be real enjoyable. So hopefully you'll sit here and enjoy it with me, and we get started on this adventure today. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm nervous. It's everything all at once. I'm just ready to go. So hope you guys enjoy, and let's get started. Okay. That's the Washington Memorial. That's in Washington, D.C. I've been there before. This is a place I've actually been. The vacuole suits, because this is part of the zone where you just can't breathe. But look, it's held by France. So the old U.S. Capitol is being held. Dang. Are they looking for the president to confirm that the president's gone? Oh, better not be nuclear launch codes or anything. That could be devastating. Interesting. Sword of Damocles. I wonder if that's a code name for something, but if you're not familiar with the story of the Sword of Damocles, I'll do a brief summary of it if I can. Damocles was apparently a king, I believe, in ancient Greece, and he was a successful king. He had military campaigns, he was well beloved by his people and by his military, and he would often hold banquets for those people who were his friends, close companions, visitors from other lands, and also just, private citizens who, he'd do rotations and, give laurels to people who were successful. He had a dear friend that was I believe a merchant. And they'd grown up together, and so he often had this friend at these banquets, and his friend really enjoyed them and always thought so a little bit jealously about how his friend was this nobleman who he related to, but he kept having all these great things given to his name. He had plenty of women at his call. He had lots of banquets and fine foods and had all this power and authority. And one time he was kind of sitting around, and he said to Damocles, it's man, Your life is the best. You've got everything you could ever want. I'm almost jealous of like everything you've got. And Damocles said, like, really? Do you think it's really that great? And he's like, well, of course, you've got everything you could possibly want right at your fingertips. And Damocles said, tell you what, I could use a break. I'll take a day off. You can be ruler for a day. I'll let you have all the authority and tell everyone in the palace to do exactly what you say for a single day from sunrise to sunset. And his friend's like, whoa! Like, he was like, this is my chance of a lifetime. I can effectively have, like, a perfect day. I can have everything I've ever wanted. And Damocles said, but there's a catch. You have to stay in the throne room the entire day, seated on my throne. You can engage in whatever you want, but you need to remain seated on my throne. And the friend's like, okay, I can do that for a day. That's not too bad. And he's like, I can still have all the food I could want. I can have women. It's like, sure, that's great. So Damocles said, good, see you in the morning. So the guy shows up in the morning, comes inside, and Damocles gets up from the throne and gestures to it and has his friend sit down. And when his friend sits down, he notices that Damocles has taken his personal blade, like a fine honed blade, and has placed it directly over the throne, held up by a very thin string of rope, blade down directly like towards his head. And this was a battle-like weapon that didn't take much to be able to severely wound or potentially kill somebody. And it's just sitting there, hanging, like 10 feet above his friend's head. His friend's like, what the heck? What's this all about? And Damocles says, no, you agreed. You're going to stay in the chair and you're going to do my job. So get to it. Have a good day. And Damocles walks out. So the guy is sitting in there, and he gets, people asking him questions, people offering him food, the best cuisine. He has women who come by and, like, are visiting and entertaining him. He gets, like, bards and all that. But he spends the whole time sweating buckets. He's constantly looking up at the sword hanging above his head, and he can't enjoy any of the stuff that's happening to him, all the pleasantries that he was so jealous of. And he's constantly obsessing about this sword, terrified that at some point it's going to fall and end his life. Finally, Damocles at sunset returns back and says, hey, my friend, how was your day? The guy's like, it was horrible. I spent the entire time terrified of this damn sword about the chop that was going to fall and kill me. Like, why on earth did you do that? It made this day horrible. And Damocles said, I wanted to teach you what it's like being king. Because being king doesn't may come with lots of pleasantries, but you are constantly in fear of the sword coming and taking it all away from you. But not just you, your family, and your friends, the ones that you cherish. Thus I make sure to make the lives of my friends and family the best they can be, whilst I sit under the very real sword of leadership. So the sword of Damocles that's essentially the lesson of Sword of Damocles. It's this idea that, like, those who have power, authority, and privilege often live in constant fear of that power and privilege being snatched away from them as swiftly as a sword can fall from the sky. So, if this is a weapon or something, the Sword of Damocles, then I would guess that it's some kind of either like some kind of like mutually assured destruction weapon, or it simply could be something of another name, which I believe they call the God's thumb or something. It's this concept of a satellite with large steel, or actually I think titanium rods that just are dropped from orbit and fall and come through the atmosphere and effectively are super powerful bombs that don't release radiation, but like theoretically are like sending like man-made meteors that are just super destructive. I could see that being a fantastic name for such a device. The Sword of Damocles, literally a satellite with giant metal rods hovering over in orbit, ready to drop these swords onto the head of anybody it needs to. So, sorry for that really long intro, but I wanted to share that because I think that story is really powerful. The Muv-Luv Unlimited, the day after episode 2. So yeah, if you're not sure why it's episode 2, get out of here. Go back. Go to episode 0. This is the fallout for having the S11 illegally, I'm sure.
S11 の不法所持。それだけでも重罪だということは理解しているのだろうね。
Unfortunately, she's now a war hero, and her actions literally saved everybody. I don't think they can actually punish her. They're going to threaten to punish her and tell her she's on thin ice, but I don't think they can actually do anything.
軍の管理体制までもが疑われているのだ。 機関のおかげでアメリカからの査察圧力は一段と強まった。日米同盟に関する協定違反のみならず、数々の越権行為など、機関には聞かねばならないことが多すぎるのだよ。
But Inspector, you are here. Whereas if I had not had an activated Addis-11, none of us would be.
まったく、頑固者だな、機関は。
いかなる処分にも従います。
処分に従うから返答しない。それが許されるわけではないのは重々承知しているだろう。簡単に解放されると思わなんでくれるかね。
I don't know about that.
機関の処分についてはアメリカからも注視されている。帝国内だけで解決できる話ではない。では、致し方あるまい。神宮寺少佐、機関には現職から外れてもらう。
What a foolish mistake. What a absolutely terrible mistake.
機関を拘束する。神宮寺少佐に手錠と腰紐を。
You're gonna regret this.
残念だよ少佐。君のような有能な人材を更迭せねばならないというのは。
No, it's really a bad idea. No.
続いてはカー海峡に急ピッチで建設が進められている食料生産プラントの話題です。
Oh, that's good.
今日は現場と中継がつながっています。それでは現場の根岸レポーターお願いします。
はい、根岸です。今日はカー海峡の生産プラント資材運搬港よりお送りします。私の背後にはプラント中央部の管理センターがそびえ立っています。先日から見ますと随分と高くなったなという印象ですが、これでも完成まではまだまだ先が長いのです。
What a nice job to have in the apocalypse, being a reporter.
根岸さん、プラント1号機の試験稼働は年内を予定しているということですが、そうなりますと管理センターは未完成のままということでしょうか。
はい、プラントの方はモジュール化されており、後から増築が可能なんですが、管理センターはそうもいかない。それが従来の話でした。しかしそうしますとプラント1号機の稼働は最低でも来年の春を待たねばなりません。これではただでさえ逼迫している帝国の食料事情が悪化の一途をたどることは明白です。
So they're gonna jerry-rig a control center?
そこで政府は全体の設計と広報を大幅に見直し、革新的な改善を行うことでこの問題を解決、年内の試験稼働を可能にしたというわけです。
Very good.
詳細については明らかにされていませんが、建設途中のあの状態でも管理センターはプラント1機であれば稼働させられるだけの十分な機能がほぼ揃っているということです。
I wonder how they make this synthetic protein, honestly, because I'm not too sure. Like, I always assumed that they were, like, collecting, you know, like algae and such from the ocean and then processing it into edible form. But there can't be a whole lot of, like, even algae-based life in the ocean right now.
なあ、いい加減もういいだろ
う。動かないでください。ほら、もうネクタイ曲がっちゃったじゃないですか。
ということは一部で噂されているような作業員の安全面を無視した無茶な労働や急ピッチで作られたプラントが人体に有害な重金属などを取り除ききらない粗悪なものを生産するであろうという話は全くの杞憂と考えていいですね。
Baseless claims that are probably accurate, but it's far too important. Like safety checks kind of have to go out the window in the face of an emergency. It's unfortunate, and it really should be minimized as much as possible, but needs wants.
もちろんです。こうして現場に立っておりましても、主導する帝国軍をはじめ工事に従事する皆さんの士気は非常に高く、熱意と誇りを感じます。
this does sound like what I would expect Japanese media. Like, abroad in Japan, Anime Man, have covered, like, media in Japan, and it's almost horrific, obstinate, like, glass half full optimism. That's the word. Gosh darn it, I was close to it, but I stumbled. Optimism, like they almost have to force happy stories in, and they try and minimize things that sound down or depressing in an attempt to create this atmosphere of wholesomeness and like family-friendly, joyfulness. Like apparently it's very prevalent in the media in Japan, so that can be really frustrating, I imagine. And that's kind of what I'm feeling here. They're like saying like everything's happy, everything's good, don't be mad.
管理センターが未完成のまま1号機が稼働するのは広報の違いによるもので、生産されるものの品質には何ら影響はないと政府もそう明言しています。
ここをこうして、
I remember having to learn. I had to teach myself how to tie a tie when I moved out of the house.
むしろ未曾有の最悪に見舞われ、あまりに多くを失った私たちがそれを乗り切るために知恵を絞り、工夫に工夫を重ねた結果であるわけですから、この光景は誇って良いのではないでしょうか。
I like their definition of thrive. It certainly has changed from what I would call thrive.
なるほど。全くその通りですね。
But I agree, it's probably good to take the optimistic route.
なあなあ、さすがにもういいだろう。
もうちょっとだけ。この間みたいなのは恥ずかしいじゃないですか。これで。はい、お待たせしました。もういいですよ、立浪注意。バッチリ決まってます。
Hey, it looks very sharp.
やれやれ。
今日はテレビカメラも来るんですから、みなりはしっかり整えておかないと。
She's very much almost like our wife here. It's very cute.
以上、食料プラント建設現場から根岸がお伝えいたしました。
はい。この食料プラントは最終的には3号機まで建設される予定で、政府はそれらが全て稼働する1年後には帝国の食料事情は大幅に改善される見込みであるとしています。
Just hold out for that year.
おやさ
Gramps?
おお、ジョーちゃん。
こんにち
Oh,
は。
whoa, he is a Gramps.
なんだ、どうしたい？
今休憩時間なんです。あれ、エレンちゃんたち来てないですか？
では次のニュースです。大解放以来消息不明となっていたタンカーが発見されました。この巨大船は国連軍所属の潜水母艦曳航用タンカーで、発見時には4隻の潜水母艦を曳航していたということです。
Transport tanker.
ああ、ミオの少尉。エイ
Interesting.
少尉も仙道
I
少
was
尉も
wondering if
ま
that
だ
was going
見
to
え
be
てま
tied
せ
to
ん
like
よ。
Zero, but that was a TSF carrier, not a transport submarine carrier.
なんで、また井戸端会議かい。くすもとおめえ、サボってばっかいるんじゃねえぞ。
失礼だな、ちゃんとやってますよ。
け。
巨大漂流物の発見は3ヶ月ぶりです。なお生存者はありませんでした。
こんにちは。
Hey, Ellen.
遅かったね。どこ行ってたの？
This would be a lot more heartwarming and like heart lurching if I'd had to wait between the episodes like most of the people who actually like were able to follow the stories that came out. I imagine these came out like a year or even further apart from each other. So this is a good like reintroduction of the characters. But since we literally played this last week, it feels a little fluffy.
ちょっとね、面白いもの観察してきたのよ。
Oh, let me guess. Was it Yuzuka? Because you always seem to enjoy her.
何ですか？
And these two seem to be having a shared like moment. Look at
取材に
them.
赴くために身支度していたうちの隊長様とそのマネージャー。
Yep.
いえ、あれはもう世話女房と言うべきね。
Yeah, that's what I said.
覗きなんて趣味悪いですよ、少尉。で、世話女房のあたり、もっと詳しく報告願います。
She's like, give me the deets.
ちょっと何の話をしているんですか。
And there she is, perfect timing.
このタンカーは現在シアトル湾外洋に係留されていますが、船の占有権をめぐっては所属の国連、発見した日本帝国軍、係留地であるアメリカ、それぞれが異なる立場をとっており、交渉は難航するものとみられています。
Okay, so it was a UN-based craft, so they're saying, hey, it was our craft under our jurisdiction and we should have its contents, but because it was found in American waters, probably close to the, like, new territory of Japan, maybe even found by the Japanese, like, soldierings, it's like all three are claiming it, technically. Because it's like, hey, it's in U.S. waters, thus it's ours, maritime law. And Japanese is saying, hey, we found it, maritime law, it's ours. Because that's how maritime law tends to work. So the U.S. is kind of, okay, so the U.S. is saying it's our water, it's our territory, even though it's in the water, in the seas. But then just because it's our claimed territory, it's ours, maritime law doesn't apply. But Japan's saying, hey, it's at the water, it's in the sea, maritime law applies, we found it, it's ours.
続きまして公務員ユーヒ殿下の話題です。
ユイ！
シアトルに到着されてからの2ヶ月、様々な施設を精力的に訪問されていた殿下ですが、本日は朝から慰問のためサウスヒル居住区を訪れました。
I miss Yui.
この地区には一人暮らしの高齢者を専門に収容したエリアがあり、地区の集会所を訪れた殿下は待ち構えていた住人から熱烈な歓迎を受けました。
It's kind of nice that we're going to actually be able to see her like being the shogun, because in alternative we only got to see her as like a shogun on the run and then her being reinstated as the head of the government essentially. And then we see of course Yui in Altered Fable, but that's when she's like just like a girl who's like kind of a co-inheritor of the Mitsurugi financial group. So like she was like leader role, but she was also just kind of like a high school girl. This time, if we get to see her in action, it'll be really cool.
失礼します。
30分にわたりお言葉を述べられた殿下は、その後住民に直接声をおかけになり、厳しい冬の寒さを乗り越えようと励ます一幕もありました。
Nice.
午後からは同地区の医療施設を訪れる予定です。
ではここでお知らせです。帝国国営放送シアトル支局では近日中に第7次シアトル防衛戦にて獅子奮迅の活躍を見せた日本帝国軍立浪響中尉の特集をお送りいたします。
So he's gonna get really famous, and oh man, though, he might get a promotion, and he's gonna be expected to like kind of fill in Marimo's shoes. That's gonna be terrifying.
今や知らない人はいないとまで言われる立浪中尉のお名前ですが、当時の詳細のみならず、その人柄や中尉を一躍英雄たらしめた北米大陸横断校についてもお話を伺う予定です。以上、本日のお昼のニュースでした。
I hope that doesn't go completely belly up. The war against the beta. Oh.
西暦1973年に始まったベータの地球侵攻はとどまるところを知らず、人類は敗走に次ぐ敗走を余儀なくされていた。国土を追われた列強各国は生産拠点や国家そのものをユーラシアの外へと退避。一度は国土を奪い返した日本帝国も東南アジアへと生産拠点を移設。それもままならぬ国の人々は国連の旗のもとに絶望的な戦いへと駆り立てられていく。そして西暦2004年2月、30年の長きにわたるベータとの戦いに終止符を打つべく、人類起死回生の一大反攻作戦が行われた。その名をバビロン作戦。選ばれし十数万人を乗せた移民船団をバーナード政権へと見送り、5次元降下爆弾通称 G 弾の集中運用によって地球上から全てのモニュメントが一掃され、 人類の勝利は目前と思われた。
Just go and delete the biggest continent on the planet. No way that's gonna have
ジーダン
consequences.
の一斉起爆によって発生したと思われる大規模重力偏差により、バビロン作戦はバビロン災害へと名前を変えた。重力異常によって偏った海は巨大な津波となってユーラシア大陸を飲み込み、安全だったはずの他の大陸は大気圧の激減に見舞われ死の世界と化した。
Mm-hmm.
かつて海底だった大地に浮いた大量の塩は風に乗って内陸奥深くまで降り注ぎ、ベータの侵略からもバビロン災害からも逃れたわずかな土地から容赦なく緑を奪い去った。
So
バビロン作戦に
screwed.
展開していた各国の軍隊を中心としてユーラシアより脱出したわずかな人々は新たなる定住の地を求め変わり果てた地球を行く。だが人類の前に再びベータが姿を現した。
Oh gosh. Oh.
必ずや緑の地球を再興する。宇宙に立った者たちにそう誓った人々はさらなる過酷な状況に置かれていた。
It's like we took a bad situation and just made it horrifically a million times worse. Oh, that's interesting though. Like the Earth in that grayscale suddenly looked like a yin-yang symbol. That was interesting. It is insane. Look at that. Look at that. And what is even left on the main, like what was left under what was Babylon? Like eventually they gotta go there and explore and figure out what's going on. Interesting. So that was very similar to the last video we saw, but it had a couple of updates, including the red-haired girl, whoever that is. She looks like she'll become
欧州
important.
派遣軍としてヨーロッパ戦線において大解放に遭遇。その後はアメリカ軍との共闘、大陸横断。それから第7次シアトル防衛戦では敵軍中に突貫し、大型爆弾にてこれを殲滅。終列まさに粉骨砕身。その活躍は日本人だけでなく、アメリカ市民からも称賛されております。
Hence why he's on the news.
経歴だけを字面でお伺いしていますと、屈強な軍人像を思い描いてしまうのですが、立浪注意は思ったより繊細なように見えます。
Oi! What did he just say?
これだけの内容を成し遂げることが可能だったのは、他の軍人とは違う何らかの理由があるのでしょうか。精神が頑強でいらっしゃるとか。
いえ、自分の精神力は普通の軍人と何ら変わりません。ただ燃費がいいんじゃないかとはアメリカ軍の仲間からよく言われましたけどね。
Wait, wouldn't they say that because he's light? What is this self-deprecating crap? Why the heck am I putting myself down, dang it?
アメリカ軍の仲間とは 大解放後に東海岸でアメリカ軍に保護されていた頃、強襲揚陸艦ボクサーに収容されていた頃のお話ですね。
そうですね。我々欧州派遣軍は大解放後、日米同盟にのっとり、アメリカ軍の保護下に入りました。ボクサーの連中は気のいい奴らばかりでしたよ。
I bet we're gonna learn a lot more about that whole journey.
なるほど。ボクサー収容後、しばらくしてフランス・カナダとの戦争が始まったことになりますが、東海岸の戦況について教えていただけますでしょうか。
ああ、それについては軍事機密に触れる可能性が高いため遠慮していただきたい。
Well, that's probably good.
すみませんが、そういうことです。
あ、わかりました。では、基地の範囲内での質問に変更させていただきたいのですが。
いいでしょう。ただし、構成は厳密にさせてもらいます。
結構です。では、ハドソン沿岸での敗戦を受け、そこから大陸横断を敢行されたという話は間違いないでしょうか。
間違いないです。
大陸横断中のことをお話しいただけないでしょうか。大変な旅だったとの想像はできるのですが。
そうですね。容易な旅ではなかったです。辛い出来事が。
Wow.
食糧難、敵による追跡、治安は崩壊していて、人々は自衛のために。
Oh, so they met a lot of survivors. Oh man. Oh yeah, that orgy's grim, and we don't even know details.
ですが、日本を脱出してきた皆様も同じように辛い経験をされたのだと思います。私たちだけが特別ではないでしょう。
Nice recovery, but ooh, a good way to skate over like Donner Party type crap, I'm sure.
周囲の経験された辛い出来事とは、具体的に。
ひどい経験でした。今言えるのはそれだけです。
想像を絶するであろう困難を切り抜けてきた周囲の話を皆が聞きたがっていると思います。皆を勇気づけると思って、そこを何とか話していただけないですかね。
大陸中央の情勢については公開を許されていない。質問を変えていただきたい。
Gotcha.
わかりました。では、第7次シアトル防衛戦について。立浪中尉が敵対軍の中で新型爆弾を使用し、これを撃破したとの噂が市中に流れておりますが。
That part of the story definitely is not going to be allowed to be talked about.
ああ、それについてだが、もう一度確認したい。その話はどこから聞いたのでしたかな。
はあ、噂の出所はアメリカ軍兵士ですよ。彼らがそのように話していたという噂があったので調査を開始しました。
Oh, common US soldiers likely don't know what an S-11 is, so to them it's a new bomb, but for Japan it's something they've been using in the war for years.
結果、第7次防衛戦に参加した複数のアメリカ軍人関係者から情報を入手しましたので。
遮ってすまなかった。続けてくれ。ただし、あくまでもアメリカ人から聞いた話をもとに取材を開始したことを明記してくれ。では、立浪注意。概要だけ話してやってくれ。
Man, I feel sorry for the reporter who has to deal with this PR guy literally in the room. So basically, do what you're told me to do before the interview started? Gotcha. These guys are a bit heavy-handed, but he's got our best interest at heart. He's gone out of his way to make sure people don't believe it's Imperial pilots spreading this stuff around.
第7次シアトル防衛戦における自分の任務は、大型爆弾を敵軍中に設置することでした。
Interesting. Yeah, they definitely got to do control. I think that's another thing. If I were in a job in this world, like, I think I could do decently at PR. I think I'd have a decent understanding of how people interpret information. It's obviously not perfect, but I've always been decent to be able to communicate an idea across, usually in fairly simple terms, but in a way that most people can approach and understand. you guys would know better than anybody, but I've often heard in feedback from like videos on my channel, especially like Steins Gate, where I get to talk about a lot of science because I understand like at least the basics, the surface level of a lot of the stuff that they talk about in the principles leading up to the ideas of time travel and like world lines. I was able to kind of break some of those things down in ways that were a little different than the visual novel did, and a lot of people seem to enjoy those takes. So I've counted it as something of a skill. Granted, I don't know if I could be on the level of like actually controlling data across a continent or a country, you know, and like controlling all of that, but it's a part of work and ideal that I've always wondered if I would be good enough at to actually get into someday. Don't think it's ever going to happen, but maybe in a pinch, it's something I could work towards. It's something I've applied for, certainly, like entry-level stuff, but no one's taken the bait because a lot of them expect you to have like a bachelor's in journalism, and I don't have a bachelor's in journalism.
技量が要求される任務になりますが、自分でなければ不可能だったという類の話ではありません。ある程度の技能を取得している英士であるならば、誰でも可能な任務でした。
Having humility here is actually really important. Now, he's good because he's trying to uplift like other surface pilots, saying like, look, I'm not that special, like all the other pilots are good too. But it's also really great because it's interpreted by the people as humility, because they're still going to put him on a pedestal. Like, he can't avoid that now. So by being humble at this stage, it actually will make him even more lauded, but it's also going to start making people see him as a super soldier, which means that his failures are going to hurt a lot more if they happen. So it puts the pressure on.
簡単な任務でないのは確かですが、順番がたまたま自分に回ってきただけです。帝国軍英士ならば、その時が来れば、誰もが任務を忠実に遂行しただろうと考えています。
It's a very good answer. Honestly, very good answer.
その緊張や気遅れなどはされませんでしたでしょうか。敵中に侵攻するということは当然ながら戻ることができない可能性もあったと思うのですが。
Oh, I'm sure every second.
戻れない可能性。
目標はすぐそこだ。行け、立浪。
くっそー！
Speed is a weapon.
兵装投機！識出力最大！
Purging armaments. I didn't even pick up on that. He dropped his weapons. He dropped his guns to fly in there. Holy crap! I didn't even. I was too caught up in the moment to realize purging armaments means he dropped like his guns, his ammunition, his secondary weapons for like unsuspected like flanking. He literally flew in with just the bomb. Holy crap! Wow, that was a pretty baller move.
立浪注意。
失礼しました。もちろん私も人間ですので、あの時戻れない可能性を考慮しなかったわけではありません。せっかく拾った命だったということもありますし、その緊張感が相当なものだったことは事実です。
なるほど。
ですが、私たちは常日頃から緊急事態に備えるための鍛錬を行っております。ですから、状況に際し躊躇することはありませんでした。
Another great line.
本当にご立派としか言えませんね。敵中に特攻できたのは日頃からの鍛錬の賜物というわけですね。
Suicide attack? Is that what the people are calling it? A suicide attack?
そうですね。ですが、こうした覚悟は帝国軍兵士ならば誰もが持っています。繰り返しますが、帝国軍兵士ならばその時が来れば。
なかなか謙虚でいらっしゃいますね。
いえ、事実を述べているだけです。帝国軍兵士ならば当然のことですよ。
Now that's a little dangerous because it sounds fantastic, but that's putting a lot of pressure on any soldiers in the military right now. Because suddenly they start to think, do I have to be like him? Because he's up here, remember? Like he's being talked about, people like claiming him as a hero, like for multiple reasons, and now he's the standard. That can be discouraging for a lot of people who are fantastic soldiers. Just because they aren't like the cream of the crop doesn't mean that they're not credibly important. So like it could be bad if they take a morale hit because they feel like they're not capable. Hopefully that did the trick.
そうですか。いえ、皆様素晴らしいことです。我々国民も安心できます。しかし、立浪中尉の 己の生命を顧みぬ献身的活躍によってシアトルが救われたのは事実ですから、我々は感謝しなければいけませんね。
God, if those lasers had got out, it would have been over. I'll be damned. This dude's gone out of his way to make me look like some kind of hero. And it doesn't matter what the others say. A hero's the one thing I'm not. All heroes feel like that, I think.
ありがとうございます。そう言っていただけると軍人冥利につきます。ですが、日米両軍が協力して成し遂げたことであって、私個人の功績ではありません。それでは何卒ご理解ください。
Another great answer, pointing to coordination not only between soldiers but between American and Japanese soldiers. Unity. Why did I even keep trying? Doesn't matter what I say, the guy always circles back to the same talking points, and every time I deviate from his script, back to square one we go.
わかりました。では次に、敵対軍を吹き飛ばした高性能爆薬についてお聞きしたいのですが。その件については軍事機密に関わるため、質問にはお答えできない。
ああ、すみません。その質問は軍機に触れるようですので。
わかりました。それでは話題を変えます。近々夕日殿下に配列の栄誉を賜るのではないかという噂もありますが、これについては。
Yeah, man, this is news tape. He's like, wait, what? He's gonna meet Yui.
すみません。こちらに視線をもらえますか？何枚か押さえておきますので。
はい。
撮影した写真は必ず軍に提出してください。使用の可否はこちらで判断しますので。
Don't want anything compromising to be sent out.
了解です。
記事もですからね。勝手に掲載しないようにお願いしますよ。
First Amendment rights, or equivalents of them, not quite there. Hanging on a thread that's effectively presumption of rights, not really existent though.
公正はお回ししますよ。そういう契約ですからね。修正は絶対に反映すること。必ず。
Yep. Oh man, it's finally over. I also like how they did this formal interview, but they're just in like a basic briefing room with a flag on the wall. Like it's like when they zoom in and probably have the camera angle, it looked nice and official. But it's kind of like this studio. Like I have these backdrops literally because it makes it look more official. But you would not believe how scrappy everything around me. It's a mess, and outside these walls, it's a mess. It's a terrible place to record, except for the fact I have these nice little like this barrier that's like literally just like fabric. It's something I just got on Amazon. But like, it's great. It helps make the whole scene fit right. But it's like everything's like lighting and placement and like there's a lot of work that goes into making things look a lot nicer than they actually are, because it's important to have a nice, polished, and effective look. One mistake I've made tonight is that my shirt is almost the same color as the background, which is not a great thing. But I'm not a professional. I'm a hobbyist, so I can be forgiven for that. I hope.
今日はどうもありがとうございました。
いえ、こちらこそ貴重なお話を聞けましたよ。
Thanking me for what? It's barely a fluff piece. That PR guy didn't let me say anything newsworthy.
さて、急いで戻って記事を仕上げますよ。期待しててください。きっと反響も大きいと思うな。売り上げ倍増ってね。
He's probably right there, because the common person, they know nothing about him. So like, while like Hibiki's like, well, this is like basic stuff. Everyone, like, there's a lot of people who don't know half of this.
ちょっといいですか？
あ、はい、なんでしょう。
失礼な質問かもしれないのですが、食っていけますか？
Hey.
今の時代マスコミで。
I was asking that earlier too.
そうですね。うちも全部で10名程度の小さな組織ですが、なんとかやれてます。
Even in a crisis,
どんな時でも情報は知りたいという欲がありますからね。
In crisis, in times of difficulty, in times when things are at their worst, news and information is a premium. Obviously, you won't have the ability to have massive staff, but information and information control can make or break a nation. It can make or break a war. So that's why the PR guy still exists and why he's so heavily involved in this. That's why they're screening everything. it's why reporters can still exist, and why they're probably like supported essentially, maybe like indirectly by the government, because information distribution is critical, and it's a lot easier to spread propaganda when it's not coming directly from the military or the government, because that becomes fairly obvious that they're only going to share what they want you to say. Having an independent like reporter publishing like state-approved media makes it look a lot more natural, but allows you to still have that fine control. Russia is a modern like master of this, and China, I would say as well, are really good about having like the appearance of free media, but the vice control over the ultimate depiction of most of that media. I mean, it's effective. I don't think it's ethical, but it's effective.
確かにそうですよね。
Information, huh?
実は軍の経済支援も受けてるんです
See,
よ。
right there.
マスコミとしてこの辺は痛しかゆしなんですが、現状では仕方ないという感じですかね。
And the military needs you, but they're never going to let you know that.
そうですか。
I guess I should have seen that coming. The way sales alone are enough to keep the newspaper in circulation these days.
いえ、これまで随分と軍人さんには取材してきましたが、こっちの事情を知りたがった方は2人目ですよ。
Oh, I wonder who the other one was.
2人目。
はい。あなたと神宮寺少佐です。
That makes sense.
それじゃあ、本日はどうもありがとうございました。今後の活躍に期待しています。出世。
Oh, sorry.
出世なんて。
Not for you. I'm pretty sure that you could if you wanted to.
周囲は日本人の希望の星なんですから。いい記事にしますので期待してください。
At least for one of us isn't lacking in confidence. Talk about the talk of the town, huh?
ありがとうございました。
Wonder what exactly he means by that anyway.
さて、立浪注意。10分の休憩の後、次は帝国国営放送のインタビューだ。生放送ではないが、テレビカメラが入るので、くれぐれもうかつなことは言わないように。
Right, because they won't be able to have as much control over what he says here, because it'll be recorded rather than written down.
わかりました。
But he did fine. I'm sure they're not too worried. Oh, Miyano, of course, you're going to be the one to uplift us. But we are going to be stopping here for today. We had the introduction, we kind of had some reflection on like what things are going on and kind of getting to play. Again, I'm definitely thinking that my prediction was right, that we're going to be seeing a lot more of the war between Canada, France, and US, Japan. Like, it sounds like that's going to be a much more premium centerpiece of the story this time around, so that'll be really terrifying, but interesting. Obviously, we're going to learn more about his trek across the West, but not to the West, but I don't know if the details are going to be that interesting yet, because we have, 2 other parts to explore after this. But yeah, I mean, more of the same, more to learn, more to do, more exciting stuff, and a conversation with Yui coming up soon, so that'll be very, very exciting. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and just stop here just because that's enough content to cover. It's a lot to digest and to think about. I can't wait to read your comments and hear what you think about this so far. Obviously, no spoilers if you've read this before, but what do you think of my predictions? Do you think I'm on it? Do you think I'm off? If you don't know what's coming up next, what are your predictions? I'd love to read those as well and kind of like talk about them. Again, please, no spoilers. It ruins the fun of making content like this if someone goes out of their way to tell me the stuff. And if there's a comment that I think is going to spoil, I'll actually stop reading it and just ignore it. So it's one way to make me not listen to you is to try and put in a spoiler or two, but regardless of that, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. Also, I mean, which character are you most excited to see more about in this coming part? Obviously, you can hint at maybe the new character like the red-haired girl that we saw in the intro that seemed a little bit new. And of course, it also did reflect Marimo and then the girl who survived episode 0, who I'm already sadly forgotten the name of. I wonder if she's gonna ever actually like make an appearance again, because she survived and she got rescued, but we haven't seen her at all, so I don't know. Where is she? What's she up to? I guess she was technically part of the American forces, so Like, it would make sense if she were, like, not in the Japanese force, but could she be a collaborator? I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you especially to the patrons who are continuing to make this stream a reality, helping me find the time and the means to be able to make 5 videos a week. Trust me, it's not easy. I have a lot of other things I'm juggling, including now a part-time job, and I'm building towards a second part-time job, and just the normal day-to-day tasks of, you know, being alive. So yeah, there's a lot going on in my life, but thanks to your support and your hope and belief in me, it's all the more possible. I look forward to hearing from all of you because it means the world to me. And until next video watching me, I've seen me next. I'll see you there.